The movie omits a lot of the gay of the book.
There's gay in the book?
A little bit. Because he meets him at a nude beach.
Oh!
I want you to hit me as hard as you can.
And this is how I met Tyler Durden.
Fight Club was directed by David Fincher and came out in 1999. It was based on the famous book, stars Brad Pitt, Edward Norton.
This is, we've been talking before about Literally Me movies.
Yeah, film bro movies.
And this is quintessential film bro.
Might be the most. It might be the most film bro. Maybe the most Literally Me movie too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. How many times have you seen Fight Club?
This was my second time.
Okay. And then I've seen it about 3 times, and I read the book too.
Yes, you stole the book from me.
I stole the book
that
from
I
you.
hadn't read yet, and you gifted it back to me. Mm-hmm. And I still haven't read the book. So that's on me, I guess.
At least one of us read it, you know.
How's the movie held up compared to the book for you?
Compared to the book, or just to hold up as a movie?
Both.
Okay, as a movie, I'd say really good. Love this movie. I think that's generally the consensus, that it's a good movie. Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah.
I will say, after reading the book, I do like the book better.
Okay.
I think the book, it's honestly not that different, but it adds just like 1 or 2 things that really like recontextualizes some things in the movie, and it adds in a whole nother layer of thought, I guess you can say, to it. Before we get into any of that though, what do you think of Fight Club?
I mean, I enjoy it. I see why it's so famous and popular. Mm-hmm. I will say it's not like my favorite, like, of the Literally Me film bro kind of movies.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talk about masculinity.
Is that what a man looks like?
A lot of people will misinterpret it and be like, oh gosh, I want to be just like Tyler Durden, you know?
Of course.
Because I didn't really watch this movie, like, growing up. Mm-hmm. So being able to, like, come at it from, like, a more adult perspective and, like, be able to see, like, oh, I could see how, like, a 16 or, like, 15-year-old kid is going to see this and, like, not get it.
Of course,
and they're going to think they get it.
Yeah.
They're going to be like, nah, it's you, old geezer. You don't really get it.
Right.
You know, because a lot of times you'll, like, watch a movie and then you'll watch it again and you're like, whoa, I didn't even think about it like that.
Yeah.
But I was kind of, you know, I don't think my thoughts on this movie are going to change very much upon another viewing.
Mm-hmm. Right. Watching it as an adult, I think I can see where, like you said, like a 16-year-old could be led astray and be like, oh, I like Tyler Durden, he's so fucking cool or whatever. But at the same time, I also think that, like, it's really obvious that he's the bad guy, you know? Like, they kill him at the end. And he becomes like a terrorist.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't understand, because you see adults now, I mean, one of the reasons I think we're kind of talking about this movie now is it's still kind of relevant now with the whole Alpha Sigma culture stuff going on. I really don't know how people can come out of this movie and be like, Tyler's right about everything. If the whole end of the movie, like the last 40, 30 minutes is all about how Tyler's just a bad guy, basically.
Yeah. Again, a lot of people will mischaracterize Tyler as, like, the ideal man because he's so unhinged, he's so unbothered, he's so untethered to, like, society and whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's things that he does that are like outright despicable. Like, you know, he recruits these guys into a terrorist organization, and it goes to show, and even modern movies touch on this kind of stuff too, how, like, when you get, like, a bunch of, like, lost men together, initially it's like, we gotta just, like, express our masculinity and, like, no room for the girls or whatever. But then, like, that can quickly divulge into, like, misogyny and, like, destruction of property and, like, acting out and, like, all this kind of stuff. And when they don't get to subliminate their masculine, or not even just masculine, just aggressive tendencies into, like, something more productive, like boxing. Like, they even mentioned this character Bob was, like, a bodybuilder before he lost testicular cancer. So he, like, literally, like, loses his manhood and he, like, rediscovers it again in this, like, Project Mayhem and this purpose of just, like, upsetting the established order and whatever.
Yeah. I mean, they basically view masculinity as, like, catharsis, essentially. They just commit to catharsis. Like, they start the Fight Club, and then that's just a way to, like, get out the narrator's aggressions, but they put some pseudo ideology on it to where it's like, actually, we're reclaiming our masculinity by beating each other up and stuff like that, when really it's, like, not much different than the therapy sessions that he was going to before.
I mean, they even go out of their way to make it seem like the therapy and the stuff is kind of like a bitch move.
Of course, yeah.
You know, because they're like, oh, everyone's crying together and what, and, like, even in the beginning of the movie, you start to notice that the narrator is just very, like, I don't know, soy boy.
Yeah.
To put it in modern terms, as he, like, you know, he's obsessed about, like, buying furniture and, like, you know, what's the famous line where he's like, what does this sofa say about me?
Oh,
You know, and that kind of stuff. And then Tyler is this sort of antithesis, this sort of, like, dark side to him.
All the ways you wish you could be, that's me.
So the narrator assumes this alter ego of Tyler Durden, who is not what he is. You know, he's muscular, he's brash, he's rude, he takes what he wants, he has sex all the time.
He has no empathy for others.
Yeah. And what's funny is that, you know, I mean, it's revealed that the narrator is Tyler Durden, so he really does have these capacities for, like, you know, other masculine traits that he just feels insecure about. Like, I mean, he's hooking up with Marla, which I'm sure is something, because, you know, he visualized himself as kind of like a third person in that scenario, like an uninvolved party.
Right.
You know, so, you know, and the more and I don't know, I know that the author says that this isn't really what the movie and the book's going for, but it's like, you know, is it saying that, like, oh, if you suppress these masculine tendencies through, like, office work and, like, just, you know, whatever normal modern society, is that just gonna, like, sneak up and come out in this other way, and, like, this other version in Tyler, you know?
Yeah, I think when the author says that's not what the book's about, it's what he's saying is, like, what the narrator does is they say this a few times, you know, they're a generation raised by mothers, that he believes the world is feminizing him, when in actuality he's just being suppressed through his work, you know? He's just a victim of capitalism, if anything else.
Yeah.
But he takes that to a personal level, and he doesn't know quite how to comprehend it. And so he's like, well, it's just bad because I feel like a woman, you know? He just needs to realize that masculinity is a bit more open than he thinks, and you can buy things and still be a guy, you know?
There's a couple standout scenes for me, but one part I like is when he's talking to Tyler, and Tyler's, like, in a bathtub, and they're mentioning how, like, they had absentee fathers, which they probably had the same father.
Yeah, I mean, they say multiple times. He's like, me too. The entire time.
Bro, that's me. Also, yeah.
Exactly.
Wow, we got the same briefcase. What? Anyway, so, yeah, they mention how, like, they have absentee fathers, and their fathers were, like, their psychological role models for God, and they feel like God's abandoned them. Gets kind of Nietzschean even. Yeah. They bring to this point where, like, even though Tyler's extreme, sometimes he, like, brings out, like, I don't know, I don't want to say positive things.
Oh, yeah, for sure he does.
Because, like, for instance, with the convenience store clerk Raymond, when he takes him out to the back and he tells him he's going to shoot him, and then he tells him he has 6 weeks to get on his track to, like, getting his life together and becoming a vet, which was, like, his dream.
Right.
And then he leaves and he's like, but, you know, now his life is going to feel so much sweeter because he's been that close to death. So, like, he's able to, like, inspire change, and it's weird because he even mentions that, like, he thinks self-improvement is, like, a waste of time, and like self-destruction is more important, but, like, he uses the destruction to, like, bring about these changes as characters. But do the ends justify the means? No,
obviously. Yeah, I mean, well, because what we're talking about here is essentially, this is like a cult movie. It's a movie about a cult of personality. So a lot of times in cults, they will have good messages and they will have positive improvements to people's lives. You go into a cult and you think, oh my God, like, they have this cool new way of thinking, you know? Tyler is not wrong about materialism. Materialism is bad. His solution is the problem. His solution is to say materialism is bad, so I can do whatever I want. And I can just act cathartic, and I can, you know, you reject the feminine, you reject empathy, and I can do whatever I want to people. I can destroy buildings, I can piss in people's soups, I can get my boss fired for no reason, you know?
One thing that I appreciate is I don't really think the movie goes out of its way to, like, glamorize what he's doing, because what's funny is, I mean, maybe on the surface it may seem like that, but when you think about it, Tyler is the narrator character. Right. And when you see the narrator character, he's kind of pathetic. Yeah. Like, even as Tyler Durden, which is one thing that I won't really say is a critique, but maybe it, like, comes across better in the book. But it's hard for me to believe that that Edward Norton is the one that, like, was able to, like, recruit all these people into Fight Club and, like, start, like, this, like, chaos and, like, this project, especially while he has a split personality.
I don't know, man. With the incel community, if you've looked at them, their leaders, they don't look too much different from Edward Norton. They look a little worse than Edward Norton, you know?
Oh, no, I mean, he definitely gives off, like, that kind of energy, but what I'm saying is, like, I would have felt like some of the other people who joined Fight Club would have like
stepped up and been the leader.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is like the movie also kind of critiques this bringing into a more modern example, but the whole like I'm a free thinker mentality. You know, these people, they wanted to be anti-materialist. They went in to get away from like the system, and then by the end of by the time Project Mayhem comes along, they're just drones for a different system, for Tyler's system. They all talk in unison. They call themselves monkeys. They don't have names anymore.
Yeah.
They basically
shave their heads.
Yeah, they've materialized themselves in a way. They're just products for Tyler to move. All right, I think we've touched on most of the thematic stuff in this movie. What would you say about, say, the casting?
Casting's good. I think the standout is Brad Pitt.
Yeah, Brad Pitt, of course.
Edward Norton's fine.
He does great at playing a little wormy nerd guy.
Yeah.
I have fun laughing at him more in this movie. Like you said, is like watching it as an adult and really comprehending how like misguided he is throughout the entirety of the movie. I find myself laughing at him more whenever he's like insulting his boss and going on little tangents and stuff.
Well, I gotta tell you, I'd be very, very careful who you talk to about that.
Helen, I don't know. I don't remember her
Tim
last
Burton
name.
girl.
Yeah, Tim Burton's girl. She's good as Marla. She's memorable, and she's also, you know, a chaotic result of capitalism as well. She's poor, and they're just looking for some kind of thrills, like especially when they're like going to those meetings, pretending like they have all these
Poor
illnesses.
and lonely, you know, which is exactly what the narrator needs. The twist of this movie is so spoiled. Do you think this movie holds up knowing the twist? And do you think someone would be surprised by the twist today if they somehow never heard it?
If they're like a baby, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Because like it's almost at this point like to the level of like Darth Vader being Luke's father.
Yeah, or like The Sixth Sense or something.
Where it's like, because I even knew the twist before I saw the movie, before we just watched it. So yeah, but even knowing it, I feel like if I had seen it, I may have guessed the twist beforehand.
They do so much to show you that he is Tyler in this movie.
Yes.
Once you know the twist, it does add a nice extra layer, and it gives you a good analytical perspective to this movie. You watch the narrator a little more closely, and you're able to understand him a bit better, knowing that he is Tyler. It just adds a little coup de grace to it or whatever.
Coup de grace.
I don't know, it just makes it, it's icing on the cake, I guess you should say. Because, you know, he could just not be the narrator. You know, they could be separate characters and the story would still work as just like, oh, Tyler's like a masculine ideal for this main character. But making them the same character shows his thought process a bit more. That being said, I think it's so easy to guess the twist. And I don't get any sort of satisfaction from him like learning, oh my God, I am Tyler. Like that moment's just not as cool to me, but that might just be because it's so pop culturized now.
Okay, Braden, tell me the differences between the book and the movie.
Okay. There's only a few. They're honestly very slight. The ending is just slightly extended. In the movie, they just like watch the towers blow up and then the movie ends. We would listen to Where Is My Mind? It's over, right? In the book, he ends up in the hospital and he like wakes up and they basically just explain that like, oh, this was all a terrorist organization called Project Mayhem. We don't know who Tyler Durden is. No one knows who Tyler Durden is. And you basically learn that like the narrator is absolved from like all guilt of this crime. But as he's in the hospital, people are coming up to him and they're saying like, we're ready to start again, sir. So essentially implying that like the narrator can never escape what he's created. You know, sort of this toxic masculinity will never end. Once you put it out into the world, it's like a little disease. It affects and it'll constantly go. I know there's like sequels, like there's like a comic book sequel or something where they like expand upon that more. But yeah, that's the extra bit to the ending. I kind of like it. I think it's a nice little addition, but ultimately not necessarily like necessary to its enjoyment.
Yeah, I was gonna mention about the ending, and we can circle around to this. But like, I was kind of trying to figure out like, what's the message here? So
yeah, I would say the message is just like, accept woman. You know what I mean? I mean, like at the end, he grabs Marla's hand, and this is a little before the ending, but he says like he finally admits to liking Marla, whereas earlier in the story, he's very like, I hate you for some reason, you know?
Because you're keeping me from
you see the
terrorism.
truth, yeah, or whatever. So like at the end they embrace hands, and it's basically him being like, oh, you have to accept responsibility. You know, the world's fucked up for what he did. There's explosions in the background, but at least he's accepted woman and destroyed the toxicness.
Yeah, this is already a long movie, but I kind of wish they'd like delved into that a little bit more. I think that because like you said, I think they allude to that, but I don't think that's really like because what I got from the ending was basically just like he wins.
Yeah, yeah. That is true. That's one thing that I kind of dislike about it is that it does make it seem kind of like badass. The towers are blowing up, like, oh, look what he did or whatever.
Yeah.
But let's get to talk about these next two things. We got to talk about the gay. The gay in this book. The movie omits a lot of the gay of the book.
There's gay in the book?
A little bit, just a little bit.
Okay.
Just enough to where
like this much?
Yeah, just there's a
Just
little
that
bit.
much gay.
Yeah. This many pages gay.
Okay.
But anyways, when he meets Tyler in the book, it's very strongly implied that he kind of has like an attraction or is like sort of like very like into Tyler because he meets him at a nude beach.
Oh.
Yeah. He meets him at a nude beach and it's like Tyler's like hucking logs and he's like putting them down on the beach. He's making like a face or something with logs. He's making like a little picture with logs. And the narrator's like laying down at the nude beach and he's like watching Tyler from afar. And they don't go too far with it. He's not like remarking upon his like swinging penis or something like that. He's not doing any of that, but he's definitely like, Tyler's got a muscular body and stuff like that.
Is it more in an envious way or more in a like...
Well, it's not really stated. It's more just like, wow, look at that muscular guy, you know? But you're kind of like, he really likes this nude guy he's looking at.
Yeah.
And then there's...
Why was he at a nude beach?
It's not really explained. It's you know, they explain the insomnia thing where it's like, oh, he just wakes up in random places and like the book does.
How did I get on a nude beach?
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe he was taking one of his many business trips and he ended up there. Okay. Maybe the book explains that. I read it a little while ago, so I don't quite remember. But from what I remember, the book jumps around a lot where it'll just be like, oh, you're here and this is the scene and then we're by, you know, because of the insomnia thing. Anyways. There's one other little bit of gay that they kind of touch on in the book. There's one line, it might be my favorite line from the book, because I think it explains the themes of the movie and the book really well, which is like the narrator talks about his relationship with Tyler and Marla. It's basically this line comes right at the end of the scene whenever Tyler starts hooking up with Marla. And the narrator feels a little threatened by that or whatever. And he basically describes his relationship with Tyler and Marla as a love triangle. And he says, Tyler wants Marla, Marla wants me, and I want Tyler. And so he's basically like I really love that line in the book because I think it really encapsulates what this like weird toxic masculinity mind has done to him. He can't even like a woman because he's so in love with masculinity. He's like, I can't accept anything about Marla. He's like, I hate Marla because I just want to be with Tyler so bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know what that reminds me of? It's this weird meme. I don't know if you remember, where it's like, why do women only want to be with guys who treat them like shit?
Why do women only like jerks who treat them like shit?
Project Mayhem is like a bit more jarring in the book. Like Tyler literally says like, we're gonna kill people.
Okay.
And instead of just like pointing guns and saying like, we might kill some people, he says like, we're going to kill people. And he assigns people as like assassination squads and stuff.
Do you wish they kept some of that in the movie?
I really like all of the stuff in the book and I think it makes it a better story. That being said, I can see how omitting it does make the movie, in a way, just a little better in its own way. Because when you take out some of the gay stuff and some of the like more obvious, like they're killing people, this is bad, it makes it a little less obvious that Tyler's a bad guy. And therefore you kind of understand why people would fall for him a bit more. You kind of get the cult of personality sort of thing. In the book, it's like, it's very obvious. You're like, how would anyone fall for this sort of like cult mentality? Whereas in the movie, you kind of fall for it for a little bit because you're like, yeah, I do hate my job and I do hate materialism. And yeah, I don't want to kill people, but like, good for that guy. He's like going to be a vet now, you know?
How does omitting the gay stuff do that?
Well, I would say that I think a guy who's a bit more alpha, a bit more masculine,
Traditionally.
would see that gay stuff. He'd be like, "Well, I don't want to be gay. I don't like Tyler." You know what I mean?
So do you think...
I think when you read it, it kind of like the gay stuff is almost like an insult to the narrator, and in a way, we as an audience can look at that and say like, "Oh, haha, he thinks he's being so like masculine and straight and alpha," when in actuality he's just like simping for a man, you know? He's wanting the opinions of man more than anything else. You know? And so when you take that out, I do think the movie it tries to hook you in more. I see why a crowd of people might actually be like, Tyler Durden's cool, versus in the book where you're like, Tyler Durden's just some gay guy. You know what I mean?
So you think that may have made it more marketable to like film bros?
Yeah, exactly. I think
Especially back in the like late 90s, early 2000s.
Exactly.
When it was more taboo.
Yeah, I think a lot less people would have posters of this movie on their wall. A lot less people would.
I wonder how many
that stuff was in there.
I wonder how many people who this is like in their letterbox top 4 like know that.
Right, yeah.
Because I will say this, not everybody. Obviously not everybody.
Yeah.
But if somebody tells you that this is their favorite movie,
Right.
ask a couple more questions.
Yeah.
Just
of course.
just out of curiosity.
Yeah. You might want to run. You might want to get out of there.
But you know, Braden, that makes me think, how do you like this movie?
Yeah. How do I rate this movie?
How do you rate this movie?
Well, like I said, I do like the book quite a bit better. But I gotta say, the movie is effective for what it is. We didn't talk about the humor much. This is a really funny movie, and I think it's got this nice, cool, dark humor. It's got some great direction in it. I would honestly give Fight Club a 5 out of 5. I think it still sticks the landing. I kind of wish it went with some of the stuff in the book, just because that stuff's a little bit more interesting and adds more layers to it. But the movie is still perfect for what it is.
Okay. As far as Fight Club goes for me, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5.
Okay.
It's a good movie, well made, interesting themes. Hearing some more of the stuff about the book makes me kind of wish they went in that direction, because that's a little more interesting for me. But I think it's, you know, very cinematic looking. It's well shot. It's well directed. It's well acted. Some of the things that bring it down, Edward Norton, I don't like love him in this.
Okay.
Like there's never really parts where his acting's off or anything. He's just like hard to root for me.
Oh, that's understandable. Yeah.
And I think the ending being so kind of, I guess, ambiguous, kind of like left me feeling weird about it, because like I don't know if I'm supposed to be like, I don't know what I'm supposed to get from it.
Right.
I'm like, is this better now that Tyler's gone and he's just the asshole? You know what I mean?
I guess the point is he got rid of Tyler. He's become, for one thing, he's not putting his responsibilities on someone else. He's looking at his own destruction and saying like, all right, that's my fault, Like even like earlier in the movie they touch on that, and then he's gotten rid of Tyler. He's killed his toxic masculinity. He's supposed to be a better person now.
Yeah, but he's still like, I mean, I know there may have not been a lot he could have done to stop it, but like if the point is he gets rid of Tyler and becomes a better person.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, he's still like destroyed the economy and like
right, and he has to face that, is what I guess the movie is saying. Like he has to take responsibility for that. There's no person he can point at now.
Yeah, I guess. Again, all in all, good movie.
Yeah.
Interesting movie. But not a 5 out of 5 for me. But I would still recommend it. And I mean, I think giving something a 4, usually for me, if I give it like a 4.5, that just means like there's like 1 or 2 things that bother me.
Yeah.
A 4 to me is like, okay, this is good quality.
Yeah.
Interesting movie, interesting themes.
Of course.
Anything else you want to say?
No, I think it's time we bid this video adieu.
Adieu.
The first rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club.
Well, I guess we can't really talk about that.
No, not at all.
No.